Hi, my name is Tracy Whitehurst. I'm the principal of two SEN schools, one of which is Aurora Hanley School.
And I'm Julie Martin, Head of School at Aurora Hanley.
We're very, very pleased to be here, having received the NASS Award for innovation and tackling food waste and food poverty. It was a real surprise and a recognition of the hard work of the young people and the member of staff leading that particular project. The project came about over a very, very number of months. We are part of the Aurora Group, and the Aurora Group is part and funded by the Octopus Group, and we are very much recognised as a group for our ethos, our company's values driven. We have high standards of social and environmental performance, and it's because of this drive that we look particularly at how we become sustainable, and that really came through into school really at this level. Our school is Aurora Hanley School. We are an independent SEN school. We have 90 students on site and on roll. We mainly cater for young people with autism and communication interaction difficulties. The majority of our young people have extremely high anxiety, have struggled within mainstream settings, have mental health issues, may have been out of education for any number of months to years. And so their education is really disruptive. And so is their ability to socialise and communicate with peers and other young people. I mean, that was further impacted by COVID, obviously. We are particularly known for being quite a specialist area in SEND with autism. We have very small classes, up to 6 or 7 in a class with a teacher and TA. And we employ about 80 staff, so the young people are incredibly well supported. And we provide a very unique curriculum, of which Julie's going to talk about later on. What we do have is really good integrated therapeutic support, both in lessons and out. And we provide lots of training for our staff and everyone working with young people weekly, both externally and internally, to support the knowledge and understanding, and also developing our staff. Wellbeing is a real focus for the staff as well as the young people, because it's really important that you are able to come to work well in yourself, able to help others. We do lots of work across the school and out in the community. We obviously undergo rigorous checks from outside, like Ofsted, but also, we have monthly audit cycles. We look at safety and compliance, school standards. But one thing is very evident that we're known for: we have exceptionally high school attendance. Our young people really, once we build those relationships, enjoy coming to school. We're incredibly proud of the impact our young people are having, on our local community. Pupils were really highly motivated by this idea of generally wanting to help people in the location the school is based. The young people themselves come from all over different local authorities, so they didn't really have the innate knowledge of what it was like to live within the community close to the school. And they were really horrified to learn that a lot of those people who lived there, both single people and parents, were really struggling with the effect of the increase in financial costs, and getting that understanding of food poverty was really quite key to them realising that not everybody is able to access meals regularly on a daily basis. So the idea of the community cooking project involved students in, again, the lower school pathway, which Julie's going to talk about. And it was tracking those development of the skills that we take as being exceptionally important for young people, so that they can take steps towards independence and learning about life, learn about things like hygiene, nutrition and budgeting. So bringing all of that out of the classroom. And the young people gained a real warm life experience of, positive community action and at a time when so many people were struggling with things like climate anxiety. It was helping them give themselves a real positive sense of purpose and building their confidence to be able to say, well, we've actually impacted change, and we've been able to do something, and we've got a real sense of efficiency. So the idea of the children's community cooking project, we were actually approached by the member of staff who won this amazing award. And she came up with the idea, as she was involved in a local church, to develop the project that involved potentially collecting food waste, because we were very aware of how much supermarkets potentially throw away, and how to reuse it to make nutritious meals that would benefit people living within the local community. And she was involved with the local church, so had actually seen a lot of the issues at first hand. And as the school itself is in a real high area of deprivation, and it's part of Stoke, so out of 316 local authorities, I think we're in the bottom 25. And actually it was making students aware that, stepping out of your own local authority into another doesn't mean all experiences are the same. And so we were always looking for ways to kind of be innovative, and we're really good. Julie's very good at supporting staff with their ideas. We really encourage creativity. And actually the idea sounded a really amazing idea, and it was actually making sure we could get that to work. It was quite logistically a nightmare and needed a lot of thought and planning behind the scenes. So although it was initially hard to get the project off the ground, we worked quite closely with health and safety. So we were lucky enough to be part of Aurora organisation, and we have a number of leads. And one of those leads was had come from working with in the food standards business. So when we had this idea, the kind of thought was, okay, the first thing is, how do we collect this food? How do we ensure it's going to be edible and fit to eat? And obviously it's got to be then, it's going to the public. We had to think really, really carefully about, our standards. How are we going to make sure that we've got the capacity to meet the quality standards? And how are we going to prepare the food? Where are we going to prepare it? Who's going to be involved with the project? And then, so what we initially thought, because food and cookery is a real big part of what we do, well, we can just do this within school. What became apparent, and we hadn't really realised, that actually our school kitchens that the children use hadn't got a food standard rating because they weren't a business. So if we were going to do this, we would have to set up the school as a business, which it was an absolute nightmare to try and do, wasn't it, Julie? I think we kind of looked at that.
We realised that wasn't going to be viable, but the member of staff was so passionate, we were keen to find a way forward.
And we kind of thought that, I think we looked at the school kitchen, that logistically didn't prove that we could do it, did we, with lunch times. So what we did go and do is then we thought about using, or the member staff thought about using, the local church, and actually because they were separate, they did have the food standards rating. So the decision then was made, actually what we will do is base the whole of the project in the church kitchen, and it was then we were able to prepare the food there and think about what that would look like through a school day. So we worked really closely with the church to ensure that the kitchen was safe. So, and that involved having an understanding of health and safety. So thinking about electrical appliances, doing really comprehensive risk assessments, looking about, how do we safeguard the young people from the heated areas? How do we manage those areas to be safe for chopping and preparing? And then also having to understand things like, the different, how we'd need to label, how we would need to prepare the food so that it'd be safe to reheat, understand all those legalities and laws regarding that, that labelling for food and allergy information was, it took a lot of work into. The young people really were involved in understanding all of that because it was part of that learning profile. And the church provided the names of families that would benefit from support. So on a 6-week kind of rolling cycle, we did a main meal and a pudding 1 day a week, and those same families had this meal 1 day a week, and then after 6 weeks we'd have another body of names come, and then they'd prepare meals to do that. I mean, the logistics of it were quite challenging at times to manage. I mean, we worked with the local co-op and we could only collect the food really early in the morning before school opened. So there was quite a demand on the particular member of staff, Tina. She used to get up there early, make sure she collected the food before it went out into the bins. We had to sort through, or she sorted through the food to make sure what we had was safe, it wasn't rotten, it was edible. Most of what we used were the fruit and vegetables. And sorting through that, sometimes it was challenging because your meal on the day depended on what was coming to us. So it was sometimes quite hard to plan, although we could pretty much say that we would get some fruit and there would be some form of vegetables. And so there was a lot of pre-prep meal planning. We also, and I think, Julie, am I right in saying we applied to a local charity?
That's right, and they funded a freezer for the project, so we were able to then prepare some of the vegetables and freeze it to then use in the meals and things like that, which made it a lot easier.
And it meant then that we'd got a backlog and back stock of vegetables and prepped food, which meant then planning moving forward became a lot easier because we knew what we had in storage, and then things wouldn't always go to waste as well. And certainly down the line, that helped. And so the project itself was really about taking that learning out of the classroom, and the students were involved at every stage, from looking at the Children's Community Project logo. They were involved in designing that. The marketing team for Aurora supported, making sure that was printed and looked really good, and they got the word out there. And the project really, for us, I think, enabled our young people to real gain enthusiasm for food technology because it was being taken out of lessons. There was a real practical application and there was a real genuine reason for making these meals. And one thing they got to do was really readily apply all of the skills you teach within class. So the reading, the following the recipes, the maths, weighing, measuring, communication with different people, adaptation into a new environment and different skills. And, the meals that they produced were, were real quality, and they had a really great impact on the families. And the feedback was amazing that we got from those that received them. So we tracked the number of meals. I mean, it's probably higher down the line. At the time when we did this, we did 31 meals in the first 2 weeks for families in need. And I think down the line, we're well over 200 now. We're incredibly proud of the impact of our young people that they've had in the local community, how committed they were to going week in, week out, and how highly motivated they were by the idea, and that real understanding of how you genuinely help people in need. Because they were so horrified to hear that people couldn't afford to eat properly every day. So we tracked the development of the cooking skills in our young people, and that making things increasingly independently, learning about life and hygiene, all the stuff you would want as if you were going into a real life situation beyond school. And I think we're incredibly proud of where we're up to with the young people and what they've achieved, and the legacy kind of lives on as well. So we are moving forward some of this project involving even more young people. The project kind of really built resilience in using different facilities, and it has a much wider curriculum framework to support our young people with autism and anxiety. And a large portion of our young people do struggle with building resilience, and that's certainly something the school with Julie leading has become exceptionally good at doing, is really supporting our young people's confidence and working in new environments. It's new environments with new challenges. So it's been exceptionally exciting, and Julie's going to talk a little bit more about the wider curriculum.
So we thought it'd be useful to explain how this particular project sat within the bigger picture at Aurora Hanley. So our purpose is empowering uniqueness, realising potential and building resilience. And that's what we're aiming to do in everything we do in our school. So as Tracy explained, many of our students have had very difficult educational journeys, but often the self-confidence is taken a knock. They can lack resilience. So this was all part of taking our students out of our nice, comfortable school into the community where they got to interact with different people that they didn't know in a different environment. So our intent for our curriculum is to ensure that every young person leaves with a recognised qualification in English and maths alongside a suite of wider qualifications that prepare them for the next step, to develop every young person's social and emotional growth and life skills so that they can engage successfully in the wider world, and to ensure that every young person has got an appropriate positive destination to move on to, but also that they've got the confidence and resilience to take that next step. So when we were developing our curriculum, and very much as an ongoing process, we always work with our team to develop key documents that really clarify what we're trying to achieve. And this document, which we call Brilliant Basics, was about really how do we bring our purpose to life in a consistent way across the team, and how do we live our values day to day. So we empower uniqueness by really focusing on relationships first, and really getting to know our students, what they like, what they don't like, what triggers them, what they need support with. Really making sure that every student has a voice and genuinely feels listened to, and that we adapt what we're doing and what we're delivering to the needs of the young person, alongside building those relationships with parents whose voice is absolutely key to us. In terms of realising potential, we are all aiming as a team to be very aspirational for our students. So we do lots of working with different strands of careers and having inspirational speakers into school with their own diagnosis or needs that can talk about their own journeys to help raise aspiration, to really help students understand where they are in the learning journey. So we do a lot of pictorial mapping of the curriculum so they can see the purpose in the learning. In terms of building resilience, we help students to see that we all make mistakes and that's okay, and help students to learn how to self-regulate if they are anxious. And we put a lot of focus on modelling those self-regulation techniques alongside our clinical team who do specific sessions as well. Our curriculum is based upon the national curriculum, but is delivered at a slower pace, or with smaller steps depending on the young person. It has a strong focus throughout on food tech, because it's such a key thing for independence and for healthy lifestyles. So every class has a double every week of cookery and food tech lessons, which leads on to a qualification at an appropriate level. But alongside that is this real key focus on social and emotional development. And we use a tool called the Vineland tool, which is a clinical tool to assess the young people on entry and then at every key stage, to see where they are strong, where they need support, and what we need to target to ensure that by the time they leave us, they are well equipped to go on to be successful in the wider world. So this is very much about not can they do something, but do they actually do something? Do they apply the skill in real life environments without somebody prompting them? And that helps us to assess what we need to focus on. So the key areas are communication, daily living skills, and socialisation, which breaks down, as you can see in the slide, into your receptive and expressive communication and written communication, your personal, domestic, and community living skills. So the food project very much sat within this, and socialisation. So all those interpersonal skills, play and leisure, and coping skills. So having a little look at the domains here, the daily living domain covers things such as hygiene, self-care, dressing yourself, helping around the home, being able to use a washing machine, being able to read labels on the clothes. So these really functional skills that we need to be successful in the longer term. The daily living domain, the socialisation domain, is very much about those social situations. How do we cope with other young people in the vicinity? What do we do when relationships break down? How do we repair friendships? And we do something on a Friday afternoon called Feel Good Friday, where students opt in to a 6-week block of an activity. We take lots of pupil voice around this, and we do really high quality projects to help the young people develop leisure skills and interests, and really to mix with a wider cohort. And the communication domain, which focuses on the written, the verbal, and the receptive language. So that tied into this project through things like labelling the food, reading the recipes, following instructions, communicating with different people in the community, in the church that they hadn't met before, and also working alongside the peers and staff to take a clear role in what was quite a busy task, trying to get these meals out every week. So here we have the hard-working bunch of students who you can see, you know, they were involved in ordering the hats that they needed for hygiene to cover their hair, and designing and ordering their aprons, doing the food hygiene skills and training, learning about things like Natasha's law, where the food had got to be labelled accurately. And we've got a few images there of them really enjoying the project and working hard there with the different actual cooking skills, the whisking, the rolling things out, the baking. So every week they had a very, very clear objective about what they were going to work on. So that might be around identifying food safety rules. It might be about building confidence in the community. So some students would have to have a very gradual exposure to the project and get used to going off site. It might be about using the maths to work out the quantities needed. But what we really wanted them to do is to develop that stickability and to be able to persevere with a project that went on for a number of weeks to really build that confidence and those skills that they needed. And some of the end projects there, so very balanced meals with vegetables, so lots of talk about healthy lifestyles and what we eat a lot of, what we should eat less of, and so on. And we can see the labels and all the information there on every recipe. So in terms of citizenship skills and having an impact on their community, we felt it was a really outstanding project and deserved to be nominated for this award.